the peak topic. So I saw this article being shared around right now, and this particular article says the following. It says peak developers call out entitled gamers who want endless free updates. So many gamers claim to hate live service video games, but then complain about a lack of free updates. Okay. I don't know who's going out there complaining about lack of free updates. I think people rather have all the content in the base game, like Crimson Desert. I think people much rather have that. I think people will be more satisfied with something like that. So considering it's Kotaku and it's good old Zach Zweisen, I probably would not believe this at face value. So let's see what they actually said. As spotted by Games Radar earlier this week, over on Twitter, the official Landfall account replied to someone who suggested the devs were lazy and could be doing so much more with Peak. The original tweet calling the teams lazy has since been deleted, but Landfall's replies remain, and the initial tweet led to plenty of replies from the studio explaining that fans need to stop expecting endless free updates. Y'all are mad at Landfall for not releasing a game, said a Twitter user in a deleted post in response to Landfall not announcing a new game during a recent event. I'm mad at Landfall for their lazy dev cycle for Peak when they could be doing so much more with it, considering they're ending development of it this year. Keep in mind, guys, Peak was made in 1 month. Just keep that in mind. Peak was made in 1 month. So I don't think it's crazy to expect them, like to expect these developers to be able to add things quickly. Because considering that the game was made in literally 1 month, I don't know. But anyway, Landfall then replied that Peak had so many updates, though. Neither Landfall or Aggro Crab are live service studios. Any update is a bonus, not a right. That's another thing, too, though. Right? So, like, I think people need to stop looking at every game as like a live service capable game. I think that we need to be more expecting of developers to give us a complete product right out the gate. Something that we could be happy with, whether or not they update it or not. I think this idea of having to constantly update the game with DLC and shit, we need to stop that mindset, because the moment we stop that mindset, we get ourselves out of buying DLC nonstop. And if we stop that mindset, that means they also stop that mindset little by little. I want more games to be like Crimson Desert, personally. I want video games that are going to give you an insane amount for your money. And it's all available in the game. You play the game and you just experience the content and you can unlock things. And I want that. I want that back for a lot of different video games. And I understand not every video game can be like that, because obviously we do live in a live service world. We live in a multiplayer world. I get that. But I want games to be more about like Crimson Desert. Yamato says, what about fighting games? I'm the same exact way. Like, I want fighting games to go back to what they were, where you can unlock characters, whether by playing the game or just by playing the game or doing certain challenges, secrets, whatever. I think that would be great. Or if you can unlock like costume colors and stuff by doing certain challenges and stuff like that, like I think that's great. I don't want a game where I gotta be nickel and dimed and pay for this. Can you imagine if Crimson Desert was a situation where let's say you're exploring the desert and you run into a legendary mount, and when you run into a legendary mount, you kill the legendary mount, but then in order to be able to utilize it, you got to pay $4.99 a month. Can you imagine that? Or just flat out, they take the legendary mount out of the game and then they sell it to you and say, hey, this is a $4.99 DLC. You could get this legendary mount if you pay $4.99 and it'll unlock for you in the game. You could go hunt it. Like they gave all of this to you for the price of the game. And that is a strategy that companies like Ubisoft do. They do that all the time. Wasn't it? Hold on. Forgive me. I'm getting old. Remind me, chat. Was it not Ubisoft that promoted Their Assassin's Creed Attack on Titan collaboration. And then at the end of the collaboration, after you do that pathetic quest line that was like 10 minutes long, they greeted you at the end of the quest line with a message for their store where you could go spend like $10, $20 on the outfits that are tied to the collaboration. They didn't even give you the outfits for free. Correct. Like, please remind me if I'm on the right track here. So they promoted a collaboration with Attack on Titan. You do the collaboration. The collaboration is garbage, and your reward for the effort of playing that shitty-ass quest was you got a message to go in their store and go buy the gear that's associated with that particular collaboration. Oh, my God. Again, I look at Crimson Desert like a fucking blessing, okay? I know a lot of people, they think it's popular to hate the game. They want to be counterculture, whatever. It's fine. At the end of the day, I look at Crimson Desert, and every day I lock into that game and I find something new, I'm reminded these motherfuckers could have charged us for this. I don't know if people would have paid for it, but they definitely could have tried. They definitely could have tried to charge us for a lot of the shit that's in the game, and they chose not to. So honestly, I look at that game and I can't help but feel grateful that there's at least one situation, one iteration where a certain developer decided to give us all the fucking content they planned for the game with one initial price of entry, and that is it. I can't help but be thankful for that. And I know that's kind of sad because that should be the norm. It should be the norm. That should be the norm that we experience every day in the gaming industry, but we don't. We just don't. Right. So it's sad that something like that should be the norm is actually treated as special because we don't get that. You know, we don't get that. So I think that's awesome. And I'll say this. They did tell us before they released the game that they weren't going to do microtransactions, that everything was going to be available in the base game. And I didn't believe them. I think a lot of people didn't believe them. And then come to find out, they were not kidding. They were not kidding about a lot of things they said they were going to be putting in the game. So, in any case, but back to the story. When another user replied and claimed that constant updates are how the gaming industry works these days, that's not true, by the way. Like, let's stop this bullshit of constant updates is how the gaming industry works these days. That is not true in the slightest. Let's get the fuck out that mindset of, oh, these games have to be constantly updated. Stop, bro. Stop. Play the game as it is, enjoy the experience for as long as you want to, and when you're ready to check out, move on. Stop pretending like you don't have a backlog to go through. Move on. A lot of these games can be enjoyed in the moments that you play them, and that's it. To try to sit here and pretend like they need to be constantly updated, constantly be given DLC. No, they don't. A lot of video games don't need that. And all it does is encourage developers to take out content from the initial game to sell back to you later down the line because they don't want to work on updating the game constantly because they want to work on their next game. You know? When another user replied and claimed the constant updates is how this works, Landfall pointed out correctly that it has done a lot of free updates and has at least one more planned, adding that the industry used to be no updates, just release as is. We have gone way beyond that. I agree. You see how they tried to make it seem as if the peak developers were being unrealistic, but in all actuality, they're not being unrealistic whatsoever. They're not being unrealistic whatsoever. I think they're exactly where they should be mentally. Where these guys, they want to work on their next game. You know what I mean? Like, why do they want to keep updating the same game over and over and over again? They don't have to do that. The game's already been a success. People enjoy it. They enjoy it as it is. Now it's time to work on something new. It's not a live service game, you know? I don't know. So in any case, that's it, man. We need to get out this mindset in the gaming industry. This is how we got stuck in this mindset of constant fucking live service games. And I'm sick of it. And I know a lot of you guys are sick of it too. And Crimson Desert is just a breath of fresh air, bringing us back to single player, massive experiences. And again, I don't need a single player game that's 500 hours long. Is that great? Sure. I love it. That's fantastic, especially if it's a fun 500 hours. But I don't need that. If you give me a 15-hour experience, 20-hour experience, I'm all for that. As long as the experience is worth it, right? Like the value is there. I'm all for that. It's fine, but it has to be a complete experience with content that I can unlock on my own without having to pay you money for DLC that you took out of the game to sell later down the line because you don't want to sit here and continue making content. So you took the content out so you can pretend like you made it when everybody knows you didn't make it. You just sold it later down the line. But anyway, that's basically it.